Welcome to Speak Today. I'm your host, Rhonda Brunett. I'd like to mention our show, it airs the times I'd like to mention on Channel 6, local access, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays, 9 a.m., 12 p.m., 3 p.m., 6 p.m., and 9 p.m. There were questions about when the show runs, so I wanted to make that clear. This is a continuation of our program from our previous show, and we simply ran out of time. So I'd like to reintroduce Diane Gedik, who is a mother of an autistic child, and Miss Angelina Summers, who is a special education teacher who specializes in autism. Welcome, ladies.
Nice to be back.
I'm glad to have you back. Our last show, we left off talking about the motorcycle run, Diane.
Right.
Can you reiterate, talk a little bit more about that?
Well, just let me give you a little bit of background on the fundraiser that I started 3 years ago in 2003. Actually, it's Rhonda Brunett's fault.
Not really.
Well, not really. As both of us having children with autism, we wanted to try and do something just to alleviate our stress on the weekend. So Rhonda mentioned, let's take motorcycle lessons. And I thought she was a little bit out of her mind, but needless to say, I did. And I happened to go head over heels, loving motorcycle riding it more, I think, than Rhonda did. And with my motorcycle, I wanted to, I thought about a fundraiser. I had been participated in a few rides for different charities. So I contacted, I am a member of Cure Autism now, giving my money and, going to their website and checking out all the information that they can provide. And I asked them if they'd be interested in me doing a fundraiser for Cure Autism now, and they said yes. So needless to say, recruited some volunteers, Rhonda, Angelina, who happens to be Joshua's teacher, the gentleman I'm seeing now, Leo, my two nieces, Jennifer and Laura, and put together a motorcycle run to raise some funds for Cure Autism Now. And thinking back, if I raised $5,000 or $10,000, I was going to be very excited. I got Wildfire Harley Davidson in Villa Park to sponsor us, as well as JD Muggs in Addison as our venue for the after ride party. And that morning, I had 400 motorcycles riding behind me for Cure Autism Now, and we raised $78,000.
I have to say, when we were riding...
Oh, this one, I couldn't look at her because she was crying like I couldn't turn around.
Not a good thing to do. Ride a motorcycle and cry. But I was up in the front with her, and I turned around and I looked, and there were all these motorcycles, and I was just, oh my gosh, and this guy next to me, Mikey's trying to grab me, are you okay, are you okay? And I'm like, no, no. It was amazing.
And she was calling me, and I wouldn't turn around and look because I didn't want to start crying, because then I would have probably dropped my bike, and that wouldn't have been a good thing.
And that was all just a thought.
It was a thought. And so, needless to say, that was, like I said, 2 years ago. We've just completed our third annual in September. It's the third Sunday of every September. The second year, we raised close to $110,000. And this past year, in 2005, Cure Autism Now took the motorcycle ride national. It was in
It's incredible.
Chicago, Seattle, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, and all four cities raised over $250,000, and we had 11 miles of motorcycles behind us. So I'm
So dare to dream.
pretty proud of that, and I guess I'm sort of stuck with this now.
There you go.
Okay.
That's what you get. How did you happen to find out about Cure Autism Now when you first found out Joshua was autistic?
Well, I think what every parent probably does. I didn't know what autism was. I knew the Rain Man. I went on the internet and typed in autism under search, Google search, whatever, and all these sites came up. Cure Autism Now happened to be the first site that came up. So, I went online, I paid my $25 donation fee to get information, and was just doing that every year, just like the Autism Society of Illinois, Autism Society of America. And it was just a foundation that I got close to because their money predominantly goes towards research as opposed to anything else. They're the top private funding autism foundation in the country for research.
Now, Cure Autism Now has chapters,
Right.
correct? So if anyone in this vicinity, Carroll Stream area, Wheaton, Naperville, wanted to contact a chapter, how would they go about doing that? And who would they contact? Are there names?
Yes, there's right now I believe 16 chapters, and I think that's been increased to 23 across the nation. Obviously, we are the Chicago chapter. You can go to www.cureautismnow.org, and you can click on, there's a link for Chicago chapter, and there lists all of our officers and our chairpersons of the individual events that we do here in Chicago. My name is on there, and you'll get my email address, our President Lee Jorwick's name, and all you have to do is send an email, and there's phone numbers listed, and we'll tell you how we get involved. We don't have regular meetings, but we do 4 events a year. So
What are those events?
in February, do the First Look for Charity, which is the auto show. 16 charities are represented, and Cure Autism Now is one of them. That's a black tie event. In May, this will be our 3rd year for Walk Now. Last year, Chicago was a top-raising chapter in the country.
Who was there? Shaka Khan?
Shaka Khan, James Denton from
James Denton.
Desperate Housewives. Rhonda's friend Wendy got her picture taken.
Anthony Edwards was there one year.
The first year
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards was there. He's a spokesperson for Cure Autism Now.
So there are some big names.
He was also
Yeah.
Anthony Edwards was at the the auto show.
Auto
last year
show
too,
as
right?
well. Big John Howell from US 99 was at our motorcycle ride last year. The walk raised $990,000. Our first year we raised a little bit over $400,000. In July, Terry Hancock, who is the I believe the president or treasurer of the Teamsters Local 731. He has an autistic son. He puts on a golf event every year. And also, obviously, the final event in September is the motorcycle ride, which I chair.
And they can go onto the website
And get information about all those events, or if you'd like to come and volunteer. They're all family friendly. We need volunteers for everything. And what is really nice about, you create your own little support group because we're volunteering, and most of it is parents or friends that have some type of link to an autistic child. I look at it also as my support group. If I'm having a bad day with Josh, or I'll call up one of my friends from Cure Autism Now. In fact, a bunch of us are going out for the leadership conference this weekend to Los Angeles to talk about what's ahead for the next year.
Aren't you and Leo going to, is that where you're going to do that
This week.
motorcycle?
Well, no, we were going to be a part of the Love Ride. That's another real quick tidbit. Because of my motorcycle ride, the Los Angeles chapter put on a ride last year, the same day as ours in Chicago. And their sponsor was Glendale Harley-Davidson, and they sponsor the biggest Harley-Davidson motorcycle event in the country. It's called the Love Ride, and this was its 23rd year. In the beginning, the proceeds initially went to fund research for Muscular Dystrophy Association. This year there were 10 charities that the money was going to be divided among, and because Cure Autism Now got sponsored by Glendale Harley, Cure Autism Now became one of the beneficiaries of that huge motorcycle ride. And I guess, I don't like to toot my own horn, but because of my involvement
I'll toot.
with the motorcycle ride, and we got it out into California, and it just snowballed. So.
That's absolutely fabulous, Diane. Angelina.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Would you talk a little bit about your profession? You're a special education teacher who specializes in autism.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I've been working with kids with autism I've been teaching for 6 years. So 6 years I've been working with kids with autism. My classroom right now is a K through 4 level classroom with opportunities for inclusion. It is a self-contained room initially, but like I said, there are opportunities for inclusion throughout the day and for various activities. And it's a very interesting place to be. I have a lot of aid support. I have a lot of good support from my district in terms of all the different things that I'm trying to do with the kids, things that I need. Support. We have an autism behavior consultant that comes in frequently to help me troubleshoot and just make sure everything is going okay. So it's definitely a well-oiled machine, as I like to describe it.
Well, I don't mean to interject or interrupt, but
Open format.
she's been Joshua's teacher now for the past 3 years, and I'm very, 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 very sad because Josh moves across the hall next year,
Just across the hall.
I hear horror stories of parents. I mean, in really, well-to-do neighborhoods, Barrington, Naperville, that horror stories with their district and their child's teacher, self-contained, inclusive or not. Knock on wood, I'm going to make noise. Josh would not be where he is today if it wasn't for Angelina and the Carroll Stream School District.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And yes, her son is wonderful.
He's bigger than her.
That's okay. But like I was saying, it's a very interesting classroom to be in because the needs of the kids are definitely varied, not only because of their ages, but because of their overall ability levels. When you have kindergartners and then second graders and then fourth graders, that's quite a range to be working with. But it works, and like I said, because there's plenty of opportunities for inclusion, whether it's some of my students going into the higher level guided classrooms or into regular ed, we definitely, I feel, do a good job of meeting the needs of all of our students as best we can on a daily basis. And like I said, the support is phenomenal, and without the parent support, without the aid support, without the support of my district, it would be very difficult to function. So,
Can you just touch again on why early intervention is so vital and why a child with autism needs speech and occupational therapy?
yes. Cannot stress enough how important early intervention is, and it goes beyond just speech and OT. Early intervention involves teaching a child from the minute that they have autism, from the minute they get into preschool. You should be working on teaching them how to structure their life, how to structure their surroundings, how to communicate with you and the world around them, how to play. That's important. We all know that kids with autism have a terrible time with that. And in addition to speech and OT. So early intervention, it's a lot of different things that need to be focused on. The speech aspect, obviously, for language. It's ridiculous for a child to go all the way through preschool and come to me at kindergarten and not know, honestly, how to use a textbook, if there's no language there. Okay, it's very disturbing to have a kid come to me and not know what a schedule is or how to follow a routine of some sort. And those are the type of things that need to be focused on at the age of 3. Go ahead. Yes.
Fortunately, in my situation, Joshua was diagnosed early. 9 times out of 10, it's because the parent feels that there's something wrong with the child. And even though he was in an early intervention, he didn't necessarily know how to use the PECS book by
Right.
kindergarten. But as a mother of a typical child as well, every day is a learning experience for your child. What, you know, playing with Tupperware to saying hi to somebody who walks in the room, you take all those things for granted because everybody typically learns that the normal way. With an autistic child, their way of learning is totally different. So you have to change your whole protocol on how to teach them how to say hello, on how to teach them how to go to the bathroom. It's
It's a lot of role playing.
right,
A lot of
and
role
it's
playing.
you can't do it the way you normally do with a typical child. You know, it's two different education programs. I don't know what the word I want to say
Well,
is, but
Along the lines of what you're talking about, you know, one thing that is very typical of kids with autism is, you know, we all say that, okay, they need appropriate role models to learn certain things, but in the big picture, depending on the level of functioning, a lot of kids with autism don't learn well from a model. You know, me doing something and then having them imitate, they don't have good imitation skills, at least a lot of the kids that come my way.
we're a typical child.
Would, yeah, you
say,
can show them how to do
wave,
something
and you know,
and
a
they'll
typical
do it.
child will
Exactly.
wave, and
Exactly.
an autistic child looks, you know, has this blank look in his face.
Right.
Like, what are you telling me
Right.
to do?
And that's where interventions, or it's more of a philosophy, a teaching tool, such as discrete trial or ABA, that's where those type of things come in, because, you know, you have a kid that's not responding to the typical teaching method, so you have to understand that you really have to break down those skills step by step to get them to understand what it is you want them to do.
And discrete trial and ABA, can you just touch on that a little bit so they know
Yes.
what you're talking about?
Discrete trial is a way of, it's a methodology of taking a larger skill, for example, the alphabet, okay? A typically developing kid can, you know, hear mom singing the alphabet and kind of just hear it rotely and learn it, you know, and learn it very quickly. Versus a kid with autism, if you were to put the entire alphabet in front of them at one time, it would be very overwhelming. If you were to try to just throw all of those letters at them at the same time, they wouldn't know what to do with it, and they would have a really hard time taking in all that information. So what discrete trial does is it breaks the alphabet, as an example, down into smaller parts. So you start with teaching them A, B, C, and D. Okay, once they get A, B, C, and D, you know, comfortably, and you're comfortable with that, then you move on to, you know, the next set of letters, and so on and so forth. Discrete trial can be used across all different settings. It's not just about academics. I mean, when you're teaching a child to go to the bathroom,
You have to break it down.
that's a discrete skill. I mean, there's steps that are involved to going to the bathroom or washing your hands or
You
putting your
mentioned-
shirt on. It's
you
all
mentioned
step
last
by
time
step.
that everybody uses discrete trial,
Yes,
right?
you just don't realize you're doing it until someone defines it.
Because
It's-
it
yes.
comes so natural to you.
Yes, it does.
Because anything you do in life,
Right.
there's steps to it. I mean, just getting out of the bed in the
Exactly.
morning, but a typical person, you don't have to identify those steps.
Right, and
An
you don't have to
autistic
spend
child,
so
you
much
do.
time on certain steps versus, you know,
Brush your teeth.
yes,
Right.
with a
Comb
child
your
with
hair.
autism, you may get so far and then all of a sudden hit a wall. For whatever reason, and that's where the discrete trial part comes in. Okay, you know, we're getting so far with the washing hands, but for some reason he's just not getting the whole
Drying
soap
them,
part, or
right, yeah.
whatever it is. So that's a part that you work on or break down into a smaller skill. And you know, going to the bathroom is a really easy example to use because it's a lot of things from beginning to end. So
Right.
you know, they may get parts of it but have trouble with the washing hand part for whatever reason. So that's what you're going to work on and break down into a task analysis step by step.
And going with those discrete trials, it's wonderful to teach. And a lot of autistic individuals, once they learn something one way, that's the way they have to do it forever. So
if you teach
So
them
what do we
the
do
wrong
then?
way,
right.
Right.
So we need to what they
You're in
call
trouble.
they call generalization.
Yes.
You have to try and teach your child how to apply those little steps, but there might be one little twist, and I mean, it could
Or
set
it might be in a different setting.
right. It could set a child
The
off
material's a little
because
different.
you know the toilet paper color is not the same as it is at home.
I'm so proud of you for saying good job.
So you know you have to, as you're telling your child,
Right.
you know, to clean themselves. You know, toilet paper comes in, you know, pink, white. You know,
Right.
you have to.
Right.
Everything is like you have to teach everything.
if it's not on the roll,
Right.
And Diane, you're saying this from, and because I know your son so well, from experience, because your son is one of those kids that is very regimented, this is how I learned it, this is how it has
I'm
to
gonna
be,
do it,
and if you
and-
change it, we're gonna have a problem. And he was like that for a long
He
time.
still is in
with
certain things, right.
But I've noticed, working with Josh and kids like Josh for so long, is that the older that they get, it does get better. Some things, are hard to change, but for the most part, as the hope is that as a child with autism matures, that need for rigidness kind of goes away with certain things. They learn how to adapt.
and they learn how to tolerate
Yes, toleration.
minor
Yes.
changes.
And that's what generalization is about. They're learning how to understand that, okay, just because the color is different, or just because the letter formation isn't in block letters and now it's in some other, font, it's okay. An A is an A is an A.
Right.
That's
See,
what it's about.
Change is difficult for anybody.
yep.
Whether, you're moving to a new house, new city, whatever. Just think back to something that has changed in your life, single to married, whatever. Think of the stress. Think of the nights you laid awake at night not sleeping because you were worried. Well, multiply that
100
1,000,000 times.
100 million.
And an autistic child, I mean, this Christmas was one of the biggest examples because
stories.
this is the first year Josh understood Santa Claus. And we have a calendar, and I had a Santa magnet on December 25th, excuse me. It would not come quick enough. And he finally came, and, he was all excited. He got up, opened his presents, everything. He would not let me move his open presents from underneath the tree to his toy room. They all had to be lined up because those were Christmas presents, and they go underneath the Christmas tree. They don't go in the toy room. And it was just like, okay, here's one more thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
it's
it's like,
always
okay. Here I was all excited when he's telling me he
so
wants
what
Is
did
your
you
tree
have
still
to
up?
do?
Please don't tell me your tree is
No,
still up.
my tree
I
is
remember when you had to tie your
tree down, right.
down and hang it up. Weren't you?
I had to support it so he wouldn't pull it over. No, he finally, when I, explained to him that Christmas was over.
Oh my gosh.
Christmas was over. In fact, we had, actually, what worked out was because I didn't have time to take it down New Year's weekend. He had gone back to school. School had said Christmas was over.
And now that you're telling the
Christmas
story,
is
that
over.
explains a
We're
lot
taking down the
about-
tree. Okay, and then he was fine with it. And then I said, okay, we're gonna move your toys into the toy room.
Keep that thought.
Right. You know what I mean? So everything is a process. When you think that that's not gonna matter to him. Oh my God! I couldn't even. Everything was lined up under the Christmas. It was the cutest thing. We play a game,
Right.
And then it
or
goes
read a book,
back
and then
where
I
he
have to
got
put it
it.
back under the Christmas tree.
What were you gonna say? It explains.
No,
a
I was just
lot.
gonna say, because normally, we do calendar every morning and the whole bit. And, typically Josh didn't mind when it was time to change to a new month. He could care less that August was finished and now it was September. But it's just, funny hearing you tell this
December?
story because, what did I just say? December? September?
No.
I did
She's
say,
saying.
I'm sorry,
said
okay. It's been a long day. But, no, coming off of Christmas break, all of a sudden he just did not want to change. He didn't want to take December off of his calendar, and for the first week it took me a couple days to realize that, oh my gosh, he is sad because Christmas is over.
And no more parties.
Right, and no more parties, and no more. And he just did not. He was so upset that we had to
And
change
you can tell the
December to
difference 'cause
January. Yes.
She wrote in her,
Yes.
you can tell when Joshua's tears are of anger
Oh, he was
or when
just
they're crocodile
sad.
tears because
He
he's
was-
heartbroken.
he
you
was-
know?
And for that first week back, I mean,
And
and you could tell that
Joshua's-
it was on his mind because throughout the day he would just break into this, I mean, like painful moan, cry, and
Right.
there's really nothing
He's obviously
do but just let
nonverbal
him-
Right.
for the most
for the
part.
most
the
part,
most
yeah.
part, right.
But once you get to know him long enough, you know, you kind of figure it out what
Right,
it
what he
is,
wants.
what's wrong.
Because he does have words. I mean,
yes,
you know,
yeah.
I mean, he walked around, you know, that whole week before Christmas. I want Christmas presents, please. You know, so 5 more days, Josh. But you know, we kept counting down
Right.
and Xing out the calendar because they don't. A lot of autistic kids don't have conceptual understanding
Of time
of
and
time, of directions, of anything. So we physically had a calendar. We could mark it off
They're
every
visual
day.
learners.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So-
and that helped him, but he could see that Santa was still a few X's
Yeah.
away. You know.
Right. Oh my gosh. Can you talk a little bit, about individual education programs? Individualized
IEPs, yeah.
education
IEPs.
programs? A little bit?
Yeah, IEPs are basically the working document of a good IEP. Is a document that anybody, whether it's myself, the parent, any person that is working with that child should be able to pick up this document and read everything there is to know about the child in terms of background history, family history, especially educational background, everything that you need to know about the kid, including what their goals are. An IEP, the most important part tells you what the goals are for each individual child. And it is individualized. I mean, I may have, 2 kindergartners in my room or 2 4th graders or whatever, but they don't necessarily have the same goals, okay?
Right.
Because every kid has different skill levels and different cognitive abilities. So that is basically the foundation of, it guides us as to what we should be doing with that child. It's not the end all be all. I mean, I don't do the IEP and the IEP only in terms of what I'm working on. Just because a kid may have
Well, things
5 or 6
change,
goals doesn't mean I'm
too.
only going to work on 5 or 6 goals a whole entire
Right,
year.
Right.
But that's my foundation for, this is where I need to start, this is what I need to make sure I'm working on, in addition to all the other things I want to expose the child to. And it is a legal document, so by law, a school district and teachers need to follow what's in the IEP, whether a child is self-contained or fully included, or residential or whatever. As long as that document is there, which any child that is in special education, whether it's LDBD or whatever, has an IEP. And it could be anything. It could be just focusing on behaviors, all the way up through reading needs. It just
Right.
all depends on the need of the
The
child and what
individual
their
child.
diagnosis is and all that stuff.
As far as, I'm a parent of a child with autism as
Mhm.
well. And, building a team with a parent and these teachers, your occupational therapist, your speech therapist, how do you go about working as a team? How do you bring that connection together in the best interest of, a child?
Okay. Well, first of all, the parent, I mean, like you just said, the parent is always a part of the team. There's, definitely key players, and any administration or any team always needs to involve the parent, because ultimately the parent is the one that knows their child the best. They may not always know what to do, but at the end of the day, you know your child the best. And a parent is the child's biggest advocate. I can shout and scream all I want for certain things, but sometimes a parent's voice is a lot louder than my own, and that's just how it is. So, as a team, it's important to keep all parties involved. Decisions, even if I make a decision just on my own, just because whatever's going on in my classroom environment, I'm always sure to notify my speech therapist, the OT,
Right.
the parent, whoever is going to be coming in that room and seeing that child. I'm going to be
Josh
happy to
won't
be
let
sure to
me-
mention.
Josh won't let me come in that room.
Well, because,
No, go
Josh
away,
is a
please.
kid where home is home, school is school.
That's right. He's,
Right.
he's
And
very
Ma-
regimented.
Mommy
Yes,
does not
that
belong
goes
at
back to
school.
that.
And
And how did he handle Angelina, who is a teacher, being at your home at first?
at first I think it was a little odd.
Yeah,
but
he looked at me funny.
Like, what are
But
you doing
once
here?
but once he realized that, well, initially when I first started, coming to the home or whatever, it took him a while to realize that I wasn't going to make him work, or I wasn't there to be like, Josh, do this, do this, do this, do this, and I
initially,
wasn't.
but then when
Yes.
you in the summertime when you come
So it was
in
a
and work
gradual
with him,
thing as to my relationship with Josh outside of school. At first, it was just I'm here to hang out, or I'm here to see Diane. I'm not here to mess with you.
Right.
So once he kind of got over that, he was okay with me coming there. And now, because I still work with him over the summer, I can come in there and I can bring my basket full of
And he's okay.
stuff,
Because you're
and
his
he's
teacher.
okay with it because he knows that that's what he does with me.
Right.
Versus if I were to send homework home with Josh
Oh my God.
for Diane to do, it doesn't
way.
happen.
Well, I'm hoping this new software program I
Yes,
just ordered.
and
right.
thank you again for that information.
Okay.
He's working with Thomas the trainer or something, isn't he, on computer?
Yes, that's
Okay, yeah.
another little thing. that-
I didn't mean to jump around,
No.
but it,
No,
you said software.
well, he got Joshua received from my sister the Thomas the Tank Engine computer
Which
software
is-
program.
which is his obsession.
His obsession.
yes.
And
And
autistic
I know
children
he
have
has that
obsessions.
program at school, so that's all we do now. And the funny part is, he doesn't want your help. He doesn't want you anywhere near him
No.
to try and, you know what I mean? And
To try to figure it out?
Even if there's a problem, you can't.
he wants
Yeah.
to do it himself. He will,
Yeah.
whatever. And so
It's
now he
typical,
went
I
back
think.
to school, and obviously when he asks me, "Pewter, please," I know he wants Thomas. He puts it in, he turns it. It's the whole thing. Well, he does it whenever he wants at home because mommy's easy, and he
We'll
can't
talk
do it.
about follow through.
He
Yeah.
can't do it anytime he wants at school. So he was a little upset yesterday or the
Yeah,
day before. I think.
Yeah. And because you're getting into
I'm terrible at
obsessions, which
follow
is
through. Okay, I'm just
well,
gonna
we'll get
put
to
it
that.
out- I'm
That's
putting it on
here,
the
right
table.
here on the list. But yes, Josh loves Thomas, and it's really interesting right now for us at school, and this can really go for any kid that has an obsession or a likeness for whatever it is.
And they
But
all
at-
do.
Yes, and they all do in some way, shape, or form. But for Josh, even though he likes Thomas, and I know that's a really reinforcing thing for him, as a teacher, and this is another thing too that I really try to get my parents to think about is, now's the time in his life to where I would like to see him engaging in more age-appropriate activities, if you wish, okay? And so we're trying to teach him, not totally taking Thomas away, because that is something that is a very strong motivator for him, and I understand that, but teaching him that there are other things to look at that are still train related, real trains. There's
Exactly.
tons of, and it's not necessarily the Thomas trains. I mean, he does like trains, period.
Right.
So one thing that we're doing with him at school, which he still doesn't always like, but